Hi, my name is Nora Gelprin. I work at Advocates for Youth. Thanks for joining me as we review using medically accurate terms when teaching sexuality education. So, we know that it can be really embarrassing and uncomfortable to use medically accurate terms, particularly if we were never taught to use those terms when we were growing up. It can feel very foreign. A lot of our students come into our classrooms knowing only slang words or the words that they use at home, and those can bring up a lot of shame and discomfort. We know that sometimes we want to reframe language. Another way to look at it, thanks to Sex is a Funny Word, and written by Corey Silverberg, is that words are neither good nor bad. They can either be helpful or hurtful. So, what matters is how the word is used and how it makes other people feel. So, why is it important for us to use the correct terms? Why can't we just use the slang terms or the funny terms that our students use? We know that if we use the correct terms, it really helps to promote healthy sexual development. It helps our students have a healthier and more positive body image. It helps them understand and have a language for their bodies when they need to ask questions or receive medical care. And we also know that it can help around safety concerns because we know students that you have the correct terminology, that know the correct terms, are less likely to be preyed upon for sexual abuse because they can report what has happened to them. It can also be hard to understand the difference between normal, natural, healthy behaviors and those that can indicate some kind of problem or cause for concern. So, just give you a moment to really review this chart and really recognize that most of what we see in our classroom is really very normal curiosity that students have, particularly young kids, around their bodies, around how those bodies work, and how those bodies come together to do things like start a pregnancy. On the right hand side, you'll see that there are some specific problematic behaviors. So when you see any of these, those could really indicate something else is going on with that student. Also, developmentally, with our students that are between the ages of 6 and 9, it's really common to get lots of questions about genitals, babies, breasts. Really common to get questions about different sexual activity or to be playing quote unquote sex games as they're just imitating things that they've seen in the media or perhaps they've seen at home. It's really a sign for concern if you have a student that really has really sophisticated knowledge or understanding of these or continues to be sexual with other students or themselves, even when they've been told not to or been redirected. So, someone who's really preoccupied or uses force or power to try to get their way during these kinds of things is certainly a cause for concern, while a student of this age who masturbates in class or touches themselves is really very common and a very normative experience for these grade levels and ages. If we look a little bit later at ages 9 through 12, it's also really common for the interest in peers to expand at this age. Questions about sex continue, although they might be more about what they're seeing on the media, movies they're watching, music they're listening to. They're really much more interested in privacy as well, as some of them are starting to go through puberty. We know, again, if they're really looking at sexually explicit websites on a real regular basis, or if they're masturbating to the point that it's really interfering with daily activities, those can be real signs for cause for concern. So, how can we start by introducing the correct terms if our students walk into our classrooms never having heard them before? So, it can be helpful to just really start by being comfortable saying all the different body terms, all the different body parts, and use the correct names no matter what body part we're talking about. And then, if we move to body parts that sometimes are called private or middle or sexual body parts, make sure that we're not using gendered language. That's really helpful as well. And use different activities that allow students to say those words and get more comfortable saying those words and understanding their meaning. And answer questions truthfully. Never try to make up an answer or say something, make up something because you're not sure what the answer is. And lastly, there's lots of different great resources. Sex is a Funny Word is a good book. It's perfectly normal. It's so amazing. It's not the stork. Those are three by Roby Harris that are really good. So let's look at an example using one word that I know can be really tricky for many of us, the word penis. So we know many of our students don't use this word at home. They may only know family words like pee pee and ding dong and down there and all those kinds of things. We really need to help them understand that some bodies have penises. It's really normal for them to start giggling and rolling their eyes and oh my gosh, expressing discomfort. That's really, really normal. It can help to say something like penis is the correct term for the body part. And it's important to know the correct term so you can talk with your parents and caregivers, or maybe a healthcare provider if anything should ever go wrong, or maybe you need some help. Maybe then you can practice saying the word penis together. That can be really fun, a silly exercise to do with your students. So, what are the correct terms? Maybe even all of us as educators don't know them all. So, here are some of the correct terms that are on the outside: breast, nipple, vulva, penis, labia, scrotum, clitoris, buttocks, and anus. And on the inside, some of the correct terms include urethra, vagina, testicles, uterus, vas deferens, ovaries, epididymis, fallopian tubes, prostate, gland, cervix, and seminal vesicle. Not saying you would use all of these terms with young children, but certainly as they're growing and learning more about puberty, more and more terms are more relevant. And then how to deal with slang words. This happens all the time. So, really, to restate that in schools or in your program, we're going to be using medically accurate terms. You can say something like, so instead of using a slang word, in this class, we're going to use the word blank and fill in what the term is. You could also say, if someone asks you about what a slang word means and you just don't know, just be honest and say, I don't know, or I'm not sure what that means. And then make sure that you know that students know slang words. We're not going to shame them about that, but let's just educate them. We sometimes get questions from parents. We want to really reinforce that parents ought to be their children's primary sexuality educator. All of this important instruction is coming from the National Sexuality Education Standards. We're open and transparent about what we're teaching. We have nothing to hide. You can always invite parents and caregivers to go through your materials to preview either at a curriculum night or an open house. Send them a letter home prior to instruction to make sure that you're going to be upfront about what you're planning to teach and give them notification about their right to opt out if they want to. And make sure that leaders in your school know when you'll be teaching sexuality education and that they're supportive of that and are familiar with the lesson plans that you're planning to use. So, thanks so much. I hope this review was helpful for you.